I believe, the other day. Yes? You've seen that? Over to the classroom. Excellent. Now, I know your mid-course is going to feel like it's a long, long way away in a galaxy far, far away, but it really isn't. Okay? It will come on us really quite quickly. So what you need to be doing from now, if you haven't already, is sorting out your revision. Okay? Figuring out what you need to be preparing for all of your subjects, calendaring time into your schedule, to do revision on different topics that you've covered, right? Some practice questions potentially, and ask teachers, you know, when you're not sure about different aspects. Oh, I've gone through this question, I'm not 100% sure. Can you give me some advice, please, on this? Yeah. And if you start doing that now, that would be a big help, because in about 2 weeks, a little bit over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're breaking for Easter, and you won't have the teachers around at that point, right, to help. Okay, and then when we come back, more or less, we're going to be going fairly straight into your mid-course exam. However arrangement the school decides that will be at that time. And as said, it could be that it's all online, or it might be that you're actually sitting it in person. It might be that you're all down in the room doing the exam. It might be that you're in here doing the exam. We don't know 100% yet. All right, that is still to be decided. So the site is for you. It is a collection of everything, a summary of all sorts of different aspects of the course that might then come in handy. The thing that I would really like you to work your way through is this one. That hopefully will arrive. There it is. Okay. Also posted in the classroom, but it's also in the site. Okay. This is the information about the exam in and of itself. Right? What is the format? What is the structure, etc. Now you've got a copy of this now. So if you've got a revision folder in your desktop, right, that you're storing all of your information in, maybe this can go in there as well. And you'll notice that I've left part of it blank. Okay, I want you to fill that in. Obviously, there will be bits you won't know at this point. But that gets you working your way through this particular document. Okay. Now, so what I've done is I've combined the two papers. Rather than give you two papers, right, paper one and paper two, I'm going to give you a combined paper. All right. So it will have multi-choice questions and extended response questions all in the same paper. Makes it a little bit easier for me to manage, but it makes it a little bit less stressful for you and a little bit easier for the timetabling people when they're trying to slot in different times for your exams. Now that does mean that next year when you're year 11s, which is only a little bit over a term away, scary thought, okay? You will have a mock exam that will have both papers. So you will need to be aware of that, that at some point in the not too distant future, you will be doing the two papers. I've said here to write in blue or black pen only. Obviously, if we're doing it online at that point, then you'll be doing it on the computer. But if you are handwriting, blue or black pen. Now, in the past, I've, believe it or not, had learners writing in fluorescent ink. Don't do that. Yeah. The reason why I'm highlighting this, other than the fact that the examiners highlight it as well, is that we want to avoid you writing in pencil. Hopefully for relatively obvious reasons. One of the big reasons these days, the technological reason, is that your exam actually gets digitized and then sent to the markers. So they actually have to be able to read it on the screen of a computer. So you can see if it's a faint pencil mark, that they're probably not going to be able to read it particularly clearly. Right? And I know sometimes in maths and other subjects you might use pencils to do diagrams and all of those sorts of things, and I get students telling me that every year. If you're going to do a diagram in the mock paper, in the mid-course paper, in pencil, the only thing I would suggest is that you go over it with pen. All right, so that it is dark enough to see. The only problem with doing that is that just takes more time. So you might as well just draw it in pen. What if I make a mistake? Then you make a mistake. Yeah, cross it out, do it again. Yeah, you're going to get given paper to write your answer on. So if you need more paper, you stick up your hand and you get more paper. All right. I put 20 questions in there for multiple choice. That means that I'm wanting you to answer 20 multiple choice questions. Right, so all of them. Right, we do have this situation sometimes where learners look at a question and then they decide they can't answer it. They don't know the answer, and so they leave it blank. It's multiple choice. One of the exam techniques that you need to understand is that you have to put an answer down for multiple choice. Right, you have to. Okay. If you don't know the answer, have a educated guess. All right, you've got a 1 in 4 chance. All right, you must put something down. One of the strategies one of my year 11s tried, and please don't do this, is to go through it and try and find a pattern. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, because it is tempting to do it. You see it and you see that, you know, maybe the answers were D, 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 and then you think, oh no, the next one can't be D. Don't do that. Just look at the answer and answer whatever you think the answer is, not what the letter is ahead of it. Okay, because you can guarantee the examiners don't do that. All right. I did have a student in New Zealand who went through a multiple choice exam and did ACDC, ACDC, ACDC all the way through. Yeah, they got about 25%. All right, which was, I guess, better than nothing. But again, don't do that. Okay, so right answer to all the questions. And I used to get asked, are marks taken off if they're incorrect? No, they're not. Total marks is going to be 60. So quite clearly then there is 40 marks for your extended response. All right. Now, these are the topics that are covered. So in your revision, probably a really good thing to do is to actually have those as headings in a revision document that you create, and then add in extra theory and questions to each of these, so that you can cover that in your revision. It's not a bad strategy to do, because you're actually told here what is going to be in the exam. Okay? Now, this is probably the only time you got that as an option, because when you do it for a mock exam and it's the entire course, then it's not, these are the topics, because the topics are everything. Yeah? Okay. Now, when you go through this, if you then have questions about it, and you say, well, what does that mean? Yeah. I don't, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be able to tell you the exam question quite clearly, yeah. But if you're not sure what it is I'm meaning with regards to the topics, then I can point you in the right direction. Paper 2 has 2 parts to it. Well, the structured questions section of your exam has got 2 parts to it. The first part is what's called a case study, but the case study is quite long. Okay, it's about a page length, and that's something that trips learners up straight away, because they see that page length and they panic. I have to read all of that. Ah! Yeah. Strategy number 2. After making sure you answer all of the multiple choice, or maybe 3, not writing in pencil. Strategy number 3 will be, don't read the case study first. Look at the questions first, and then go back to the case study. So the fastest way to answer, if timing is an issue for you in an exam, the fastest way to answer is to answer the questions at the same time as reading the case study. All right? As opposed to spending 5 to 10 minutes reading a case study, trying to work out what all the words mean, and then getting to the questions and starting to panic, and then running out of time. Okay? So these are the topics that will be covered within that extended case study. And I've put a hint here to remember to quote from the case study. Now, you won't have experienced this particularly much, this sort of exam pressure, and right, other than perhaps in a class. Okay, this will be, I guess, the first time that you've sat a series of exams at around about the same time. So there is an additional stress to that. You're not preparing for just one paper or one subject, you're preparing for all of your subjects all within a short space of time. So when I said to you about planning for that from now, I mean it, and you really do need to. And if you're not sure how to do that, one of the best resources, other than Mr. Piers over there, okay, one of the best resources that you can have is your tutor. All right, they will have all sorts of strategies, I'm sure, about how you could set up your revision and how you could work your way through it, how you could calendar your time so that you actually also get some sleep time. That's important too. Yeah, don't work all through the night. All right. Then there will be a second part to your extended response section. And it will have 2 case studies, but I'm only going to ask you to do one of them. They're going to be short as well. They're only a paragraph in length. Right? That's to model what your actual exam is going to look like. Right? Your actual exam is going to have 7 short case studies, and you will choose 3, 4, something like that. I'm trying to remember now. Okay. This one, you're going to have 2, and you will choose 1. All right, and again, there are the topics. Within that, please don't panic if there are little topics that we haven't covered yet. We will. All right, I'm giving this to you now, not because we've covered everything, but because it is important for you to start putting your revision hat on. Yep. Which I think they sell in the 7-Eleven, revision hats. All right. Now, the extended response paper, as said, you've got a big case study and questions, and how the mark allocation goes is like this. There is a 2-mark question, which is an identification question. So you don't need to spend a huge amount of time on that question. It's going to be, what is this? Bang, put it in. The next 2 are application-based. So you think of the models we've used, like the market model, for example. That's application. All right, so then you're going to just apply it to the case study. Right? How can I move a demand or supply curve, perhaps in relation to that particular case study, for example? Part 5 is a bit special. All right, 5-mark ones are a bit special. They add an extra analysis into it. So they are saying it's an application, but it's an application if. It's one of those sort of what-if scenarios. So it's not something that's happened in the case study, it's something that might happen. So it's a little bit higher of a cognitive leap for you. And then the last one, again, is another analysis. The second 5-mark one is another analysis and application. So you're repeating that skill set. All right, so that's that big case study. The small case studies are similar but different, or as we would say when we lived in Thailand, same but different. And the mark allocation goes along the lines of this. There is a 2-mark identification again. So that could be something as simple as a definition, or it could be just, what is that? Right, in the model, what does that mean? Okay. Then there's an application and explain. So again, it's maybe shifting a curve in a model and then explain what's happening. Then you've got the analysis and application idea, use the model and explain how or explain why. So you've actually got to have a written explanation as well. And now the 8-mark ones, those are quite tough, and the language that they use does tend to be a bit how I would refer to it as archaic or old. Right? The language can be quite clumsy, can be quite old, right? And unfortunately, I don't control what the examiner writes in the exam. Yeah. So although I might have written it in a different way, the examiner has written it in that way. Right? The practice questions I give you are going to be based on exam questions, because that's the best way for you to learn the exam. Right? Now, the 8-mark ones are discussed. They are whether this happens or not. Right? So you're looking at arguments and counter arguments. It might happen in this situation, but in this situation, maybe it won't. So again, you see that that skill level progresses. And at the end of the course, so this time next year, you're going to be flying through that, because that's that top-end skill. Right? Now, time management is going to be something you will also learn in the exam, because you have only that window of time to answer the paper. Right? You're not going to be able to sit there and daydream about your answers. You're going to have to just write. Now, one of the things I say is, again, this is just exam technique. Yeah. If I was doing this, I would put this and this and this and this on separate pages. And definitely this and this, which I probably am spelling wrong. All right. The reason why I do that is because if you have time at the end of your exam, which you should have, then you can go back and have a look at your answer again, and you have space perhaps to add. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? Because if you work out at the end, oh, I could have added an extra sentence or two to this answer, and you don't have space for it, what students tend to do is put a little asterisk here, and then they'll put an asterisk on another page, and I'll have to go, okay, that answer is connected to this question, and it might not be on a completely different page, and I'm like, yeah. You want to make it as easy for the examiner as possible. Remember, it gets digitized, it goes in the computer. So they're not going to be, if they have to go backwards and forwards and try and figure out where the questions and the answers are, it's going to take them longer, they're not going to be happy. Yeah. Now, the other strategy some learners do, and this might work for you, it never worked for me, but it might work for you, right, is to not answer them in order. Yeah. Exam technique, some learners work on the 8-mark question first, because that's the biggest one, it gives them the most marks. Other learners do the identification and then the 8-mark one, and then start work on the other ones. Now, that might work for you, and that way you can control and manage your time in the exam. All right, but I'm not going to be standing over your shoulder telling you to do that. You're going to need to work out what strategy is best for you. You don't want to run out of time. That makes things a whole lot more stressful for you. All right. Now, what other learners do sometimes is that they'll answer a question, then they'll get to this one. Oh, I can't figure that one out. So what I'll do is I'll just answer this one, and then I'll come back to that one. And yes, that's okay to do, as long as you do go back to it. But what some learners did in year 11, some of them did this in the mock, which was a little annoying, to be fair, yeah, is they filled the space. So instead of it going, 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, it went 1, 4, 2, 5. And I'm trying to work out where the answer to the sequence question is. Oh, it's on this page. No, part of it's there, but then part of it's over here, and I'm trying to piece it all together. Don't do that. Yeah? If you leave space when you write, you can always come back and add more. Don't save the trees. All right, the paper that's in there has already been cut down, so you don't need to worry about that. Yeah. All right. Are there any questions on that so far? Okay. Now, you've got that. You can work your way through that. As said, you might like to build documents with all of those headings in them, right, to add to your revision. That's a way to do it. Okay, you might like to build little mind maps with those topic headings as the center theme of the mind map, right? However it works for you, okay? That's quite important. If it's a strategy that works well for you, do that. All right, so that's that. Now, please, if you look at it and then go away, and then you've got, oh dear, now I don't know, I've just come up with a question, send me an email. I just thought of this question, yeah, I read it, wasn't sure, yeah. Okay, important. Now, the other thing I've said is this, if you want more one-on-one sessions with me, all right, to go through a theory, a model, something in your revision that you've come across that you don't know, okay, then we kind of got to book the time in because I have other classes as well, right? And at the moment, I'm meeting year 11s on Wednesday and Thursday at lunchtime, right? I'm aiming to meet year 12s and some year 13s on Thursday before school. So the time that I therefore have left is Friday before school. All right. So if you are here, I'm here usually about 7:30 in the morning. So if you have a question, right, again, it might be a market model question, a market failure question, an elasticity question, whatever it is that you've looked over again in your revision and you're just wanting to chat, you can send me an email. Okay. And there's a link there to my email in case you've forgotten that, okay, in the site. Or you could email me and say, can I come see you on Friday? I'd like to talk to you about ... Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you want to just turn up on Friday morning, that's fine as well. But if I don't know you're coming, I might be doing other things at that time. I might be looking after Harley, or I might be, talking around, sorting things out. Yeah, but if I know you're coming, it's the email, and I also know what it is you're going to talk to me about. I can have thought about it in advance. So do think about that. I've also put a link to Twitter because Twitter's cool. I've put, these are links, these ones to the topics we've covered. Yeah, right. So different ways you can navigate the site. You can go through those there and have a look through those. Or there's the pages along the top here. And so I've got a few extra pages. So this one is revision guides and worksheets. All right. Yes, it's revision because if you've watched WandaVision, it keeps coming back. No. Revision. Right. Now, there will be a whole bunch of materials in here. It may not necessarily all directly relate. I've tried to make it as relevant as possible, but the internet's going to go really slowly on me. Right. So there are quite a few in there that are arriving. All right. And the idea was to put everything worksheet-wise, revision guide-wise, everything in one place, as opposed to it being on the different sites relating to the different topics. Okay? So it's not everything that we've gone through, but it is a lot. I've also added in some AS-based revision guides. I think the internet is going to take too long. Sorry. Now, AS is very different to IGCSE, but sometimes some of their economics is quite useful. All right, so sometimes I will put it in. Okay? But I'm not suggesting that you are studying AS Economics if you're not. I've also put links to revision videos. So these ones are specifically about content and or the exam. So the structure of the exam, but also specific units that you've covered. So basic opportunity, basic problems, opportunity cost, supply curve, elasticity. So I've put them in there, right? As well. Now, past papers is a little tricky because obviously I've just grabbed questions from past papers to create your exam. And I'm not sure that this will come up. That's not the example too. But yeah, there are several websites that you can get past papers from, but you have to understand that they are past papers covering the entire course. Right? So there will be a lot of questions in there you don't understand. All right. So what I've done is I've put some past papers in there. Again, you go through them. If there's something you're not sure about, you can ask. But it gives you also an idea about format and structure of the exam. And then there were those folders that were relating to the individual topic. So the introduction topic is there, and it's got the materials that we went through and some extra worksheets there. The market model, we went through some material, we went through some extra worksheets. Business economics, we went through some extra worksheets. And then I put paper 1 and paper 2. I've also got paper 3, but you don't do paper 3. About that one. All right. Now, this is so that you can say to yourself, okay, I need to do revision on this topic. What do I do? Yeah. Well, yeah, find a past question, work your way through that. Fantastic. Done a past question, what else can I do? Whole bunch of worksheets. Yeah. Work your way through them. All right. The best strategy is always to work to your weakest area. If you know supply and demand really, really well, but you struggle with elasticity or market failure, then work on those. All right? Okay, and please do ask. All right? Send me an email, come and see me, whatever it takes. All right? You want to get a good mark going forward. All right? Stop the sharing. Probably didn't need to do the sharing, but that's right. Now, I've also posted the link to the Nearpod for today. So if we jump into the Nearpod, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So the code for your Nearpod, WIC 3N. WIC 3N. So if you can join in there. All right. Now, we've done a little bit of work on this already. All right, this idea of business economics. And where we're moving to now is we're starting to get into some quite heavy theory. And there isn't any way around that. Okay, you've got to do the theory. Okay. Where we move from here is we start talking about business size, okay, and whether businesses can increase their size and what are the advantages and disadvantages, etc., of increasing their size. All right, that's where we go from there. Now, let's just flip through. Okay. Key features of a perfectly competitive firm. All right, remember we had a spectrum. We had a range of competition levels within business. And one end is perfect. Right, and we use it as a perfect model, all right, because then we're able to compare all of real life businesses with that model and say how close to perfect are they. And then maybe they're not there. Maybe they're not perfect, in which case then we ask the government to help move them towards perfection. So what we said was that if it is perfect, we're going to have many buyers and sellers, lots of them. They're all going to be small. None of them are going to be able to influence the price. We said that there was going to be free entry and exit, so they could come and go as they please. But the key one of the key ones is that the products had to be identical. You couldn't have a difference in your product, and if you did, that meant somebody could exploit that difference in a product and charge a different price. Right? But in this context, we know that they can't charge different prices because if they would try, everybody would leave and go to the cheaper person because they've got the same product. Right. Now, the next part of the theory that we talked about the other week was we said that these businesses were very efficient. And the word efficient is one of the major themes in economics, not only competition, but also efficiency. So again, if we're moving the businesses towards perfect competition, we are saying they are becoming more and more efficient. And you understand that because you will see areas of inefficiency potentially, and they will annoy you. Yeah? I mean, we've got swipe cards that we can use to get in and out of places. We can buy things online just by looking at our phone. Yeah, it's much more efficient. Yeah? You can do contactless payments for products, which in this environment is very efficient, but also quite safety conscious. I mean, we never used to have that sort of technology before, but now we do. The other end of the spectrum that we talked about was a monopoly. There was, if you consider it the perfect anti-competition, then there's only one business supplying. It would be a pure monopoly, one business. Nobody else is able to get there and produce this product. They dominate. Right? Now, it is possible, as we said, to have a business that isn't a pure monopoly, but they behave like it. So they're going to be 90% of the industry or 80% of the industry. There are still other firms, but this one is the biggest and the most important. So even though there are other companies, you're more likely to go with the monopoly. You're more likely to use Google as your search engine online than Safari. Yes. What other ones are there? That's still around. Really? Yeah. Ah, that makes sense. Yeah. There's one with a duck that my son uses. That's the one. Yeah. I've heard of that one. There's a fox one. That's the one. But you're going to default to Google. Google is the one that you tend to go to. So it will act like a monopoly. What makes them a monopoly? Well, if they're very big, what if they have barriers to entry? What if it's really expensive? Yeah, it might be that the government has just decided you're going to be a monopoly. So here you go. Yeah. Like the company that owns the concrete in China. One company. Yeah. They made a bit of money, a small amount. Okay. The part of China we lived in was a lot of concrete and the occasional tree. So they made a lot of money. They became a monopoly because the government decided that they were going to be. It could be that there's some sort of technology, a patent, right, a copyright on that technology that nobody else is allowed. So therefore you can become monopoly. Could be that there's so expensive to set up and run, like an airline. Yeah, you might want to run your own airline. Okay? Yes. Yes. All right. But I can tell you right now, it's quite expensive to buy airplanes. Yeah, Lancelot's looked into it. No. Well, it would actually work quite nicely when you know, because you could flip it the other way around. Instead of Lancelot Air, it could be Air Lancelot. No. Michael Jordan joke. No. Right. It could be that you, as a business, control the natural resources, and the classic example around here is water. Yeah, you control your water. I can't remember the name of the company that controls the water in Malaysia, but quite a big one. Anybody know the name of the company that controls the water? Okay. There are businesses that might be a monopoly, but they might be a monopoly just locally. Yeah, so not over the whole country, but just locally. For example, where we live, there are only 2 companies that offer broadband internet. 2. And I say 2, about 70 to 80% of the people go through one of those companies. So it's like a monopoly. The school that we taught at in Thailand was kind of in a little village. And there was only one company that was able to put the internet through there because it was too expensive for all of the other companies. So we didn't have a choice at the school. You had to go with this particular company for the internet. Yeah? That's just one other example. The idea of monopolists is that they control the prices. So you don't have any choice in the matter. If you want to buy the product, you accept the price that they tell you the price is. Right. I'll move on. Now, one of the questions we tend to get asked is, are monopolies always bad? Because there are lots of examples in history of monopolies being smashed. Lots of them. Yeah. The Bell Telephone Company in America, smashed. The rail company in America, smashed. Standard Oil in America, smashed. Yeah. Microsoft, what is it? The browser, Safari, smashed. Okay. Edge, yeah. Smashed. Now, governments around the world, in particular America, are looking at the Googles, they're looking at the Amazons, they're looking at the Apples. These are some trillion-dollar companies, They're not happy with them, sometimes not happy with them because they don't seem to be paying a whole lot of tax. But one of the other reasons that they're not so happy with them is that maybe there's not a lot of competition. Maybe they need to do something about that. Okay. So, if we say that monopolists aren't all bad, we can have a think about this idea. That because they are so big, they're able to produce on such a scale that the costs are lower. Nobody else can, do that. If you want to make your own Coca-Cola, you actually can. The recipe for Coca-Cola or cola is actually online. You just have to find the ingredients, figure out a way to get the CO2 thing in it, and you could make your own cola. Yeah. There was a website a long time ago, something open source or something like that, which I always used to think was the tomato version, open source.
For the last time, no.
And they put that recipe for Coca-Cola up online and said that what they wanted you to do was to take it, create your own version of Coca-Cola, add in your special 7 herbs and spices or whatever, and then put your version of the recipe back up online. Yeah. Caused a bit of a stir, let me tell you. Coca-Cola was not particularly impressed. Yeah. It would be very expensive for you to make your own Coca-Cola. Much more expensive than it is for Coca-Cola to make Coca-Cola. Could you make your own computer? I mean, skill-wise, technology-wise, might be a bit tricky. I don't know. But I'm sure you can buy all of the individual parts. Yeah. Is it low yet? If you're in low yet, you can probably find all the parts that are out of computers. Innovation, research and development. These businesses have so much money that they can come out with new products. Cool ones. I am so waiting for Apple glasses. They've listed it as a patent, by the way. Yeah, people are waiting for them. Won't be that far away. I wouldn't imagine. Apple cars, do you think? Do you think they'll make a car? That'd be cool. Could you imagine your entire life, basically everything Apple? It's kind of fun. But how are they able to do all of that? Well, because they're that big. They can do it. It's cost them millions and millions of dollars to create all of these things. And months. You remember the iPhone, yeah? Some of you will have one. Yeah? Well, before they invented the iPhone, they invented something called an iPod. Some of you may be aware of an iPod. Yeah? No? Yes? A music player. One of the versions of it was quite big, and it had a rotary wheel in it. Have I told you this before? And to select your music, you'd go click, 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 click. Right? That was cool. Right? Now, Apple had about 93% of the MP3 player market. Right? They were the monopoly in that market. As a result of the research that they did into MP3 players, they created the iPhone. It is a direct descendant of the MP3 players that they had. So much so that one of the original designs for the iPhone had a click wheel in it. So if you were to phone people, you'd have to go click, 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 to work out their phone number. Or can you imagine text messaging? Yeah? Yeah, Steve Jobs saw that and said, no, don't do that. All right? And fairly soon thereafter, they said, well, how are they going to, well, they need to touch the actual screen. And done. Yeah, magic. Research and development. We talked a little bit about how big the company IKEA is. Very big company. Quite an amazing one. If you haven't been there, very clever. A lot of the company is designed around marketing. But check this out. IKEA is officially a non-profit business. It makes zero profit. What does it do with the money it earns? Puts it back into the business to develop new furniture. Innovation, R&D. That's what it does. It's also one of the largest companies that's not listed on the stock market. It's also one of the largest companies in the world that's still owned effectively by one family. The other one is Walmart, which is owned by the Walton family. If we have one company, it might actually eliminate, wasteful competition. Too many shops, too many power lines. It's just, you don't want all the train lines, multiple ones. No, just have one. So it eliminates that idea of wasteful competition. However, they're inefficient with regards to resource allocation. They are not competitive, and they're going to lead to higher prices for us, the consumers. And we're not so happy with that. And we don't know what's going on with them. We really don't know. They could be doing all sorts of things. We don't know. Anybody ever, honestly, hand on heart, have you ever read the terms and conditions of a website? It's like this whole page of information, then you tick to agree. Say legal contract. Yeah? No? Apple has one for iTunes. Anybody use iTunes? We do. I don't know if the rest of you do. Right? You sign up to iTunes and you have to agree to the terms and conditions for iTunes. Have you actually read them? You might be quite surprised as to what it actually says. Right near the bottom of I'm not kidding you, right near the bottom of the Apple iTunes terms and conditions, they may have changed it since I last looked. But right near the bottom, you swear by ticking the box that you are not going to use iTunes to create chemical, nuclear, or biological weapons. That's in the iTunes agreement that you sign. Now, I'm not saying it's possible for you to use iTunes for that. Yeah. But somebody at Apple had quite an interesting sense of humor. And they decided that that would be quite a funny thing to put in there to see how many people actually read the terms and conditions. Not harmful. Well, we don't know. Yeah. We have no idea about how a product actually works, what the impact is potentially on the environment. Yeah. All of those sorts of things we don't know. Right? So there are advantages and disadvantages to having monopolies. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to have a go at explaining those. Just 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. Have a go. Well, good work, Tom. Well done. This is when you're answering those questions in the exam that require an argument and a counter argument. Right? You've got advantages and disadvantages. So, are all monopolists bad? On this end, if they are, this one's no good. Yes, that's something we can get into on the next slide. But the idea is your business is so big, they also have output. Using so many products that you're able to gain cost reduction, cost saving, cost. So you were able to do other things that you can't do if they don't have that same cost. I think a whole range of them. And because of the size, the amount of output, they have a reduction. Cost of producing each. Yes, good work. Well done. Absolutely. Well done. Rock stars. Your yeah. Like how specific they can be. Remove 8 outside of that is you know, we can get difficult if it's you can practice but you're not necessarily going to know which action or which project is going to happen. That's one for us, and that's much good. So the government of other land has decreed electronics to be a monopoly, and they want to legislate. Is this the right approach? I find it quite funny. Elon Musk very enterprising, creative, and innovative, and so his share price is up. And as a result of that, people get money. As a result of that, it's very valuable. And so yeah, this is something that can make a lot of money out of. So that's quite often. All of it. He's got SpaceX, Tesla, he's got the one that produces chlorine. Doing well, team. Doing very well. Well done. Remember, these are things that are happening now in real life. Yeah, governments are debating Google. They are wanting to know about Apple. There are departments and people doing research into whether we should smash these businesses. And so it will have an implication for you. If they decided to smash Apple, for example, yeah, then what would happen? If they decided to smash Google, which if I've told you this before, I apologize, but I'm an old man, I tend to repeat myself, and sometimes I forget what I've told you, yeah? But Google itself was worried that it was getting too big. So a long time ago, I say a long time ago, a couple of years back, Google created a company called Alphabet, right? And they did what's called spinning off. They grabbed a whole bunch of the products and ideas for businesses that they were thinking about, and they pushed them all into this company called Alphabet. And the idea was Alphabet owned Google, but Google was just going to concentrate on Google. Yeah, because at that point, Google was also investigating all sorts of other ideas, kind of like Elon Musk and Tesla. Yeah, Google was investigating floating hot air balloons over Africa, right, to connect different areas, remote areas in Africa with the internet. Right, but Google decided no, they just wanted to stick with their search engine, okay, and products related to that. And the hot air balloon and all of the other ideas, they would go under the heading of Alphabet. Right, so the Alphabet company is a separate company to Google, right, and they did that all by themselves. But yes, the governments around the world are desperately looking at some of these businesses, and they are very concerned. And they are, taxes are one reason why. Apple, in case you're unaware, had a wee relationship with Ireland. And Apple put its financial centre in Ireland, which meant that it paid a very low amount of taxes, and it paid no taxes in America. So the Americans weren't happy with that. But Ireland was also part of the EU. And when the EU discovered that Ireland had done this, the EU went to Ireland and said, naughty, right? And they told Ireland off because Ireland wasn't allowed to do that because they're part of the EU. So Ireland had then to go back to Apple and say, look, we're sorry, we made this deal, but you haven't paid enough taxes according to EU rules, so now you're going to have to pay another, I think, $5 billion worth of tax. And at that stage, Apple said, well, I think I've got that money down the side of the couch here, here you go. Right? And they paid it. So these companies are being investigated, and it wouldn't surprise me if at least they changed tax laws that had an impact on them. That, I think, would be the least that will happen. But yes, definitely there will be more potential with regards to the market structures, etc. Well done, team. You did really well with that. Now, the idea of economies of scale. When we were discussing that, the suggestion is the scale is the amount of output you're able to produce. So if you are able to produce a lot of output, then the costs of producing the individual quantities are going to fall. Coca-Cola, it costs them, 5 cents or 10 cents to make a can of Coca-Cola. But they're going to charge you a couple of dollars potentially to buy one. You yourself are unable to produce at that level, but they can. Coca-Cola also produces bottled water. The one? Yeah, Dasani water is made by Coca-Cola. Now, a few years ago, Coca-Cola worked out that there was quite a significant and growing market for bottled water. And Coca-Cola said, well, we don't have any products in that particular market. But they did have Coca-Cola. And if you're not aware, Coca-Cola is around about 70 to 80% water. Right? And they make bottles for it already. So they said, I'll tell you what, we've got a production line, we've got the bottles, we've got the water, let's just create a fancy label and we're done. And so that's what they did. Instead of adding the Coca-Cola bits into the water to make Coca-Cola, they just left those bits out, put a new label on it, bang, they've got another product. Yeah? And in case you're unaware, it is, again, expensive. But they're able to do that because they have the scale to do it. They have massive production facilities. They are producing thousands upon thousands of bottles of Coca-Cola every day. That's millions, probably, all around the world. So they are able to do those sorts of things. Now, what we need to know as a team is that you can get economies of scale. You can get these cost savings 2 different ways. The first way is internally. So within your business, you're able to get economies of scale. Those are ones that are in your control. Things you can sort out. There are also going to be external economies of scale. Those are ones outside of your control. Yeah? So it might just happen that the government has decided to put a motorway right near where your business is, and all of a sudden you've got all this traffic coming to your business. Yeah, you didn't realize that was going to happen. You had no control over that. Right, this area that we are in now is a purpose-built city. The government planned for this area to happen. Yeah, some of their plan hasn't happened, right? But a lot of it did. This was jungle. And then they said, bang, city. The school said, woo, we'll go there too. But the school has no control over the roading, over who the government puts here. They had no control over any of that. Yeah? No control over the housing suburbs being built nearby, none of that. But it happens. That's an external economy of scale. Something you have no control over. All right, now, if we look in a bit more depth at this idea of internal versus external, let's look at the things that we have control over as a business first. The first one you are very familiar with, and it's the idea of bulk buying. And if you haven't been to places like Walmart or Sam's Club or any of those bulk buying, anybody been to any of them other than me? Yeah, Sam's Club? Costco? Yeah. We went to Sam's Club, Walmart. There was another one, and I forgot. Might be the Price Mart one. They were all in China. They were all in the area just where we lived. It was a bit of a challenge at times, language-wise, to sort it all out. Yeah, but it was bulk buying. Now you are aware of bulk buying because you can do that yourselves, and maybe families do it. They're able to buy lots of a product, and therefore it's cheaper. So this is the one where the school says to Apple, we want 1,000 computers, and Apple says, okay, because you're buying 1,000, we'll give you a discount. It's cheaper. You individually go to Apple and say, I'd like a discount. They're going to go, no. So bulk buying. They can also get lower cost by selling lots of them. So that's the other way. There's also this idea of marketing economies. This is where, because you are producing so many goods, you've got so much money, you are able to do incredible marketing. So if you're a business student in the room, are there any? No? Okay, just wondering. Marketing is about the sales, yeah, but it's about the psychology of the sale. So because you've got the money, you're able to advertise all around the world, maybe. Yeah. Remember, there was only 2 countries in the entire world that weren't selling Coca-Cola. Just 2. Every other country in the world sells Coca-Cola. The 2 countries in the world that don't sell Coca-Cola, Cuba and not that far from here. I'll say not that far, it's a little bit. A little bit higher up, a little bit north of where you might be from. North Korea. Yeah, absolutely. They sell Coca-Cola in Russia. Some of the first businesses in America to open in Russia. This is all the way back. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, KFC. Yeah, let's get in there. Yeah, they can market all the way around the world. Yeah. What about the Super Bowl? Have you heard of the Super Bowl in America? It is the most expensive television to buy an advert during. Right? The everyday man on the street's not going to be able to buy an advert during the Super Bowl. But Coca-Cola can, and regularly does. Now, some of the most expensive adverts in the history of the world happen during the Super Bowl. In fact, it's quite a game that marketers play these days to analyze the Super Bowl commercials. Which ones are better? And then they do like a historical comparison of them. There's some amazing adverts. Coca-Cola, such an inventive company. They, at one point, they redesigned the lids on the bottles of Coca-Cola. Right? And you couldn't open them at all. The only way you could open them is if you got another bottle and you connected the 2 lids and turned them. And then both would open. It was a marketing trick. Right? They wanted to promote relationships, and you've got a bottle and you've got a bottle, so we're going to talk to each other. And yeah, that's what they were wanting to promote. So they did that. This is a company that rebranded Santa Claus. He's red and white. All right? And now Santa Claus is red and white. You don't think of him as being brown with a brown coat on, do you? You think of him all the time as being red and white. Coca-Cola. They are incredibly successful with their marketing. This is a company, remember, that is able to spend $6 billion US marketing just one type of their product from their product range. They've got so much money that they can afford to do all sorts of things. There's a really awesome advert that they did when one of the James Bond films came out. It's an amazing advert. No, was it James Bond? Mission Impossible. I think it was Mission Impossible. Yeah, okay, might have been Pepsi, might have been Mission Impossible. Coke might have been James Bond. James Bond, it was James Bond. And what they did is they went into a shopping mall. They got a whole lot of different musicians to play the theme song to James Bond, right? And then they set up a massive big clock, and they told people that they would get free tickets to the movie if they got from this part of the shopping mall to that part of the shopping mall, right, in the time that was allocated. And then they'd be playing the theme song to James Bond, and the people would be running, and the clock would be counting down, and they would deliberately put obstacles in their way that they had to crash through and over. It was amazing, a very, very clever advert. Right? And then they got there and they got the free tickets. Yeah. There was one Coca-Cola did, and they put a machine with a camera in it, and another machine with another camera in it in a completely different country. And these were two countries that didn't like each other very much. And so the whole marketing campaign that Coca-Cola did was about relationships and working through your problems and all of that, yeah? And the idea is that you would get a free bottle of Coca-Cola if you stood in front of the camera and somebody else in the other country stood in front of the camera, and they exchanged stories or did a dance or something to connect them as people. And then they got a free bottle of Coca-Cola. And the whole idea was Coca-Cola bringing people together. Sort of idea. Who's able to do that? Yeah, that's just incredible. The fact that you can do that. Coca-Cola is the company that came up with the text and win contest. Yeah? Coca-Cola sponsored the TV show American Idol. All right? Coca-Cola is one of the major principal sponsors of the Olympic Games. You think about that, what does that tell you? McDonald's is another. Yeah, these are elite athletes. Fast food. Yeah? Right, marketing costs. It's affordable because of the size of your business. Last point. If your business is very big, you might be able to hire specialized management. All right, you've got unique aspects of your business. Small businesses can't do that. But big businesses, yeah, we need a special manager to work on this. Yeah? It's scale. Something you're able to do because of your size. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've done a lot of work today. Thank you very much. Okay, please review the information about your mid-course and ask me any and all questions that you need. Pink stuff for desks, blue stuff for hands. Otherwise, hey, Corneta, have a fantastic day.